We're going to look at the teacher recommendation side of MyCoalition. I'm already logged in as an instructor here, Mr. Brown, and I see my at the top. When you're invited to connect with a student on MyCoalition, you'll receive an automatic email alert, and if you already have an account, you can simply log in and accept or deny the request from a student or students to connect or serve as their recommender. And if you don't have an account yet, you can create one, and once you do, you can do the same, accept or deny request to connect and provide recommendations. Log in, and this is what you would typically see when you log in for and have your opening page that just shares some of the features of the platform from the teacher faculty side. You can invite students to connect with, and you can see the contacts on that first page. You can also go to the students section, the heading, go to look at my students and see all the students that you've connected with already. And it's actually under this little bell heading next to your initials where you'll have new messages or new invitations to connect. Don't have any, so I'm actually going to go straight to documents where we're going to submit a recommendation. So the documents under home, that's where you see your active recommendations. Archived will be all the ones that you've completed. When you look at documents, you'll see all the students who did recommendations from me, basic information, a column for the date that they requested it, and also the column for the nearest deadline for any of the students. And in this case, we're going to work on Buffy's academic recommendation. Her nearest deadline is January 8th. So continue. And I'll see there's 3 sections of the academic recommendations. There's contact information, student assessment, and recommendation itself. And across the top is information about the student, so I can confirm who I'm recommending. In this case, it's a student named Buffy. She's waived her right to see the contents of my recommendation, which is what this waved in green box with the white means, and most of the students will be waiting for Buffy. Buffy will be able to see when I complete it, just that the status is complete, but will not be able to see what I wrote. The date of birth, an additional indicator identifier, and also the coalition application ID. This little building icon denotes how many schools, colleges, or universities the student has attached your recommendation to. The great flexibility of the coalition system is that the student can, at any time, add additional colleges. So hopefully Buffy will add more colleges to her list. But in this case, there's one school that's tied to his recommendation. And we're going to go right into contact information. So the first section is just personal information that's been pre-populated. It prompts you to share the department title for where you work and some school information. I've actually already added that. My school in this case is Hayfield. And the phone number, and I'm going to move on to the student assessment. Student assessment is a very brief form that asks for student context, sort of the context of where you taught the student or know the student from. So it asks for the course or the courses in which you taught the student, and I've put in the case that I know Buffy from teaching her in 9th grade and 9th grade honors biology and AP biology. Then the next field, which is required, just simply ask for clarification on which grades. When an asterisk, it means that it is a required field in order to complete the form, and everything else is optional. So starting from approximate number of students in each class, this is optional information, but if you can provide it, it is incredibly helpful for readers who will be reviewing applications. 5. Then there's a question about whether I know the student in any other context, which is helpful in providing additional information about how well you know the student. So in this case, I wrote, for example, I was the science bowl coach for Buffy when she was in the 10th grade. Words that come to mind when you think of the student. This is also an optional question and really is meant to be a quick snapshot of what you think of the student, and it's kind of a fun exercise as someone who's served as a guest reader many times. Quite like this are insightful sometimes in giving a nice glance at what the student's personality is like. So if you can answer it, go ahead. It's not meant to be anything very long or extensive. The final that's optional here are these criteria. And it starts with things like academic achievement and observations about classroom behavior and their contributions to class, to more personality-related factors and what we call non-cognitives, things like resilience and maturity and concern for others. This is, again, optional to complete. Not all teachers are going to be able to comment on every single one of these criteria, but this is a great space to provide a little bit more light on how the student is and what you know about the student, and specifically in comparing the student to other students that you've taught over the past few years. So you can use these Likert scales, as you can see, to go up and down and just provide your ratings in different ways. And if you don't know, you can leave this blank. So I'm going to move on to the recommendation, which is the meat of the form. This is a evaluation, and we provide a little preamble to describe what would be most helpful to the member schools' admissions committees as they review applications from students like Buffy. As a recommendation, we find that anywhere from 300 to 600 words in a recommendation is sufficient and should be able to shed light on a student's ability to work with others and contribute to a classroom environment. And to provide some additional assistance, there's these prompts that shed some light on what kinds of information would be most helpful in a recommendation. So 300 to 600 words. It's not, more is better, but better is better. So it's not about the length of the recommendation, but what kinds of information teachers can provide to support students and shed light on what makes the student tick. So things like what motivates a student like Buffy academically, to what extent was the student really engaged in learning, how is Buffy able to work effectively and respectfully with those from different backgrounds, and how does the student compare to different classmates. Also, finally, any other insights or observations that you might have about the student that you want to bring to light admissions committee. And you can simply upload your written evaluation when it's used. So I've already added a document here, so that's why it's showing up, but just to show you, you just click upload, and you can drag a file to this little box area or select a file and just simply attach it from your computer. And there's different kinds of file types that can be provided. So the final step is just to preview the submission and confirm sent. This final page just simply reviews everything that you've already submitted or entered in the recommendation form, including all the scales and the answers. And you'll actually see a preview of what you've submitted. And in this case, it's helpful because I see that this was an incomplete recommendation, so I'm going to go back and find the right form that a letter that I did write for this student. But we're going to say that it looks good, and then go to the bottom, and that's where you're going to click submit and add your recommendation for Buffy. So again, the student will not see the contents of what you write, but they will see, they're going to see an incomplete or complete status. Also important to note is that the student can submit their portion of the coalition application to member schools at any time before the deadline. It doesn't have to be in sync or at the same time with the academic recommendation. Thanks for supporting students through the coalition platform.